Two words: version control. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Putting aside the obvious clickbait title, here's my personal take on why I think NixOS is the future of Linux distributions. If you've used any Linux distro ever, you probably know how annoying it is to spend days and weeks customizing your OS to your liking, only to realize after a reboot or maybe even a couple of days that one of your changes has completely broken something.
And NVIDIA has been the single worst company we've ever dealt with. So NVIDIA...
Maybe you changed your GPU drivers or updated your display manager. Whatever the case, now you have to spend the next 5 hours or sometimes even days debugging exactly what caused the OS to break and then figure out the fix. Now, the fundamental reason for why this process is so cumbersome is because most operating systems operate in an imperative manner. You want to upgrade one of your drivers, cool, just open up a terminal and start putting in pacman commands. You want to change your audio settings, just open up a terminal and start bashing pulse audio commands. The issue here is that if something goes wrong at some point, there's no clear way for you to see all the changes you've made because everything was done in an ad hoc and imperative manner. I mean, you can probably sift through a bunch of logs and figure out what went wrong, but surely there has to be an easier way. NixOS solves this problem by making the entire process of configuring your system declarative. What this means is you just have a NixOS config file that basically determines the environment or the state of your entire OS. If you want to add a new package or even make some changes to, say, your Bluetooth configuration, for example, you literally just update that config file with your changes. So how exactly does this solve the problem of keeping track of changes? Well, because all the changes are just in that one or a few config files, you can use a version control system like Git to keep track of all your changes. You can basically just create a new Git repository and push your config file. And after every sort of major change you make to the config, you can just commit the changes. This way, if you realize you've broken something, you have a clear history of all your changes. And you can even just switch to an older commit that you know works fine. If you're interested in seeing my personal NixOS workflow with Git and some tools that help with this process, just leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. Now, this sort of builds on the first point, because if you actually think about it, your entire operating system configuration is defined declaratively in a single config file. What this means is you just copy this config file over to a completely fresh install of NixOS, and if you run a build, assuming you've got your config defined correctly, you'll be able to recreate an exact replica of your existing NixOS on this fresh install. Now, this is huge not just for personal users, but if you have a server running on NixOS and you want to reproduce the exact same environment on another machine, it's as simple as just copying that config file and then running a build. Traditionally, this is one of the reasons why people have used containerization tools like Docker, but I think NixOS is a pretty solid alternative depending on your use case. Now, I had briefly mentioned that if you wanted to switch to a working version of your NixOS, you can simply check out an older commit and do a build. Now, while this is a totally valid way to debug stuff, you don't actually need to do this manually. Every time you change your config and do a build, NixOS basically creates a new snapshot of your system, while still maintaining all of your previous snapshots. And you can basically decide which snapshot you want to log into in your boot manager. You can think of this as being similar to System Restore on Windows, but way less and way more powerful. I know the title of the video says that I think NixOS is the future, but I don't fully believe that, in the sense that I definitely think that a declarative and reproducible system is the way to go. I just don't think it's necessary that NixOS would come out on top in that regards. Even at present, there are ways to emulate this declarative experience on operating systems like Arch and Debian, but that's not really how those operating systems were designed to be used. And I don't believe they are as mature as using an operating system dedicated to this at the moment. But this can change in the future. NixOS isn't just another Linux distro. It's a whole different way of thinking about systems. It's reproducible setups, reliable rollbacks, and declarative configs. Make it a game changer for developers and sysadmins alike. If you guys are interested in seeing my personal NixOS setup and some of the tools and configs that I've found to be hugely helpful, let me know down below. I'll also leave a link to my GitHub repository for all my NixOS start files, so you can check that out as well. Thank you for watching, and see ya.